Hello, in this video I am going to go through the first AAT sample assessment for Business Environment Synoptic, level 2. I'm going to aim to go through tasks 1, 2, 3 and 4. Of course, for task 4 is your first task that has some writing in it, hence this is human marked, this exam. And it takes 6 weeks to get your results. There is a calendar on the AAT website that will show you when you can expect to receive your result. So this is the AAT sample assessment. Your result will not take into account your response to task 4 and 7 because these are human marked. So I worked out, so the whole exam is out of 100. If you exclude tasks 4 and 7 completely, the mock will only mark you out of 68. So when you're working out your percentage at the end, do bear that in mind. Yeah, there are, so task 4 is going to have 12 marks written, and task 7 looks like you're going to have 8 marks written. So 20% of your exam overall is going to be human marked and written. But bear in mind, if this is not marking task 4 and 7, it's only going to be out of 68 because there's some computational parts to task 4 and 7 as well. Right, so let me crack on. So task 1 will be about different business types and their functions. So identify whether the following statements are true or false. Financial accounts can only be about one entity at a time. Well, that's false. That's quite difficult for level 2, but you can get a set of group accounts which will show sort of more than one company. So therefore, that's not always true. Each transaction is treated as an entity in its own right. Well, no, an entity means like a business. So each transaction isn't a separate business. So that's not true. The business activities should be kept separate from those of the owner. Absolutely. It's known as the business entity concept. 2 of your friends are setting up a business together and have asked you if you can help, as they know you have some experience of working with different types of business. They are not sure what type of business would be better for them and have asked you a number of questions. So, as there are 2 owners, they can only operate as a partnership. Well, that is false because they could set themselves up as a limited company. Profits do not have to be shared equally in a partnership. That's true. You can have a partnership agreement that spells out what the profit sharing ratio will be, and that can be anything that those partners decide upon. So it could be like 80% to one, 20% to another. If they set up as a partnership and want to expand, they can only do this if they issue shares. Well, you would have to turn into a limited company to be able to issue shares, which is a possibility. But if they want to stay as a partnership, then they could just get a loan, or they could invest more of their own wealth into the business. They could reinvest profits that have been made by the business. So certainly that's not the only way for them to expand. So false. Your friends have decided to set up a limited company and have asked you some questions about what records they need to keep. Which one of the following statements is correct? They must complete a paper copy of their tax return. We're pretty happy it's not that. Everything's digital these days. If they make a loss, they do not need to file their financial statements. Well, that's rubbish. I mean, they're a record of whatever's happened, so just making a loss doesn't negate the need for the account, so it's not that. All their accounting records can be stored in the cloud. Yes, it's perfectly acceptable just to have a cloud-based accounting system. You don't have to have a paper backup if you don't want to. So I'm happy with that for 1 mark. Due to the economic environment, a business which sells all of its products online has seen increased demand and has increased production to cope with this. Which function of the business do the following statements relate to? Right, so ensuring there is enough money to purchase raw materials for production. So ensuring that there's enough money, that's the key here. Don't be swayed by the mention of production. So that's going to be the responsibility of the finance function. Satisfy customer needs in the most profitable way. Right, so again, they've kind of tried to steer you in the wrong direction by mentioning profits, which might make you think it's finance. But the key here is satisfying customer needs, which is the responsibility of the sales and marketing function. Improving the customer service skills of call centre sales staff. So that's to do with training. So that would be under the HR department. Task 2, 13 marks, about the finance function, its information requirements and sources, and its role within the wider organisation. You have recently been promoted and have been asked to provide support to Asha, who has joined your organisation as an AAT trainee. Your manager has suggested that you produce a document to include information that is important. This should include information about areas that you found difficult to understand when you first joined. Identify who is responsible for each of the following tasks. Right, so who is responsible for preparing the financial statements? Right, so let's just make sure we know what all these people do. So internal auditors are appointed within the company and they come around and check things, basically. The owners of the business might not be involved in the day-to-day running of it. It could be like external shareholders if it's a limited company. They will certainly want to look at the financial statements, but they're not involved in their preparation. If any of you've got any shares in a company, you know, you're not required, it's not your responsibility to do the accounts. The external auditors, so these are usually like biggish firms of accountants who have an audit department, and they will send in a team to review the business, compare what's actually happening in the business to the financial statement, and decide whether or not those financial statements give a true and fair view of that business. And then we've got the finance director, so directors involved in the day-to-day running of the business. This is the finance director, so he or she would indeed be responsible for preparing the accounts. Right, next one, signing the audit certificate for the financial statements. So you might be torn between the internal and the external auditors, but the audit certificate for a set of financial statements is, as I just described, it's someone coming in that's independent of the organisation and checking that those accounts are correct. So it will be the external auditors. Overtime payments. Which group will require the following information? So HR might set those rates, but it's asking us who requires the information. So it would be the payroll department so that they can actually process the wages. HMRC will be interested in the tax that they're going to receive, not the overtime payments specifically. Customer accounts that have exceeded their credit limit. Who's going to need that information? Well, I think that's fairly clear. It's going to be the sales department so that they don't merrily carry on selling this customer more stuff on credit. The finance department often has to supply information to other departments in the organisation. Identify which department will make use of the information supplied by the finance function. So we've got warehouse, it's gone a bit blurry here, and production. Right, so information supplied by the finance function, the cost of goods returned. So which department will make use of the information? Well, goods returned implies, well, either they're faulty, so there's something wrong with the production process, or maybe they're just unwanted, in which case we don't have to make quite so many more because we've had some returned to us. So I think that's going to be more of interest to the production department. The cost of faulty materials returned to the seller. So this is before we actually start with the production process. So it's about the sort of the buying in and the holding of those faulty materials. Now, I'm not very keen on this question, I'm not going to lie. So they have given the answer as the warehouse, I guess for the reason I've just said. I was torn because I thought the production department will be interested in the buying and the requirements for materials. I'm not entirely sold on that question, but that is the given answer. IT charges for the stock management system. Well, that's certainly going to be the warehouse because it's about that stock. Asha has asked you for help with planning her workload and she has confided in you that she is struggling to meet her deadlines. She has asked you for help with prioritising her work for tomorrow. She has been asked to provide some urgent information for a meeting at 11:30 a.m. that should take an hour to complete. Asha is not required to attend the meeting. Her daily tasks are as follows. So these are still going to be important. Dealing with emails, 1 hour at the start and 1 hour at the end of the day. I would say that pretty much has to happen because it will have an impact on other people perhaps and could sort of throw something into the mix that becomes more urgent or more important. So pretty non-negotiable that she deals with those emails at the start of the day. We've got to be mindful of this information. It should take an hour. So even if she does that, I don't actually know what time she starts yet. Has it told me that? Oh, she must start at 9 a.m. So she can start at 9, do that for an hour. It's still only 10 o'clock. She's got an hour and a half before this meeting. So that kind of tells me she's then got to move on to provide the information for the meeting. So hopefully that will take her from 10 till 11 and she's sort of ready in good time. She then will have to return to her processing of invoices and preparing the payment run. So what does the question ask me? Complete the following table showing the order in which you would prioritise the work. So we've said from 9 till 10, she will still have to deal with her emails. From 10 till 11, she must prepare the information for the meeting. And then she will have to do the invoices before she does the payment run, because presumably the payments need the invoice information to be there. So process invoices will be her third job. And then we can see she's got her lunch and reception cover after that. So she'll have to fit in the payment run at some point later. Despite your help, Asha is still worried about her workload. What advice would you give her? Phone in sick? Probably not. Speak to her line manager and explain she needs help. Well, that sounds sensible. So I'm going to go for that for now. We get the computer to work. And then stay late and finish the task. Well, that you might do that, but I would suggest that that middle one would be the official line. That's what they've gone for. Identify whether the following statements about the use of technology within the finance function are true or false. Staff in the finance function should never use information collected from the website as it is not a reliable source of data. Well, hopefully it is a reliable source of data, and certainly never say never, so false. Useful information can be collected using mobile apps. Yeah. And on we go to task 3, 14 marks about corporate social responsibility, ethics, and sustainability. So identify whether the following statements about CSR are true or false. It is only concerned with activities that benefit society. Well, it is concerned with activities that benefit society. So, for example, there might be a policy of using sustainable cotton or helping the local community with some charitable events, for example. I'm just torn because of this use of the only concerned. It's also concerned with the sustainability of that business being profitable, and also the environment, thinking about our 3 Ps, the sort of 3 corners of sustainability. Now, you could argue that they all ultimately benefit society, but I think, and again, I'm going to double check, the answer will be false because we're also thinking about the environment and the profitability of the business. It involves all individuals in the company taking responsibility for their actions. Yes, it is a very all-encompassing requirement, corporate social responsibility. Everyone has a role to play, so true. It should only be undertaken to improve customer perception. Well, that might be a byproduct, and I'm sure lots of companies do CSR to look good. It's a form of marketing, but it's certainly not the only reason. And certainly not in theory, so false for that one. Stakeholders have a vested interest in CSR as they will benefit in some way. Identify which stakeholder the following statements relate to and whether they are internal or external. Right, now this is interesting. So these stakeholders are most interested in profit. Right, so we've got a drop down: customers, managers, shareholders. It's shareholders because they want to get a return on their investment. Now, there is some debate as to whether shareholders are internal to the business or external, because as we said before, you could have a shareholder who basically just holds the shares, has very, very little to do with the business. However, we will go with internal, not least because that's what the AAT have gone for, and we want to be consistent for the real exam. But although they might not be sort of sitting within the business and involved in the day-to-day running of it, they still have an impact, right? They will still have voters' rights, for example. So for that reason, I think we sway more towards internal, but you might see some textbooks which say that they are external, but this is what we need to go with. These stakeholders can offer incentives to persuade a business to locate to areas of high unemployment. So that would be the government if they offer some sort of incentive payment. And they are certainly external. AAT Code of Professional Ethics for Accounting Technicians lists 5 fundamental principles. So popular people chat in offices, professional competence and due care is 1, professional behaviour on its own is 1, popular people chat is for confidentiality, I is for integrity, and O is for objectivity. So from this list, confidentiality and integrity would be your 2 correct answers. It's not professional behaviour and actions, it's just professional behaviour, which is why it's not that one. honesty is sort of what we mean by integrity, but it's not specifically the word that's used. Firoz is an AAT member working in the finance function of a local business. On Friday afternoon, he is asked to help with processing the final payment run of the week. He notices a large payment with no recipient named. When he checks the invoice, he notices it is handwritten and he is unable to read the signature. The payment has been authorised by the finance director, who is a qualified accountant. Firoz queries it with his manager, and she says that these payments are often made to a local supplier that is well known, and he should just process the payment run as it is Friday and everyone wants to get home. Right, so as a qualified accountant, the finance director will always act with integrity. Sadly not, we can't be sure. Just being a qualified accountant doesn't make you honest and straightforward. As it is Friday, Firoz should complete the run as quickly as possible. It has been signed, so it must be correct. Again, that sounds a bit dodgy. False. Firoz should complete the run, but leave out the invoice to investigate further on Monday. That sounds like a good plan. Firoz is concerned that he may have taken the wrong action regarding the invoice payment. He goes to see his manager, but she has now left for the weekend. Identify 2 actions that Firoz could take from the following list. So, check all payments have been made. That's not really the problem, is it? Because it's the one, this payment he thinks shouldn't be made. So I don't think it's that. Contact the head of finance to discuss the issue. So go above his manager. Possibly. He's very concerned, obviously. It's Friday night and he's still there. Go home. His manager has left, so it's too late to change anything. We could do that. But let's see what the last one is. Send an email marked urgent to his manager to inform her of what action he has taken. Probably the best course of action, but he could also do that. So I'm happy with those 2. Right, and then we come to task 4. So 22 marks, 12 of which are written. So this task is about processing bookkeeping transactions and communicating information. So that tells us that we're only going to have to write a letter or an email that is concerned with processing bookkeeping transactions. So it narrows down what we need to prepare for. So let's have a look. You are working as an accounts clerk for Natural Pet People. You report directly to the finance director, Vanda Boyinski. The company started trading in January 20X1, selling animal food, treats and toys made from natural materials. They have built up a small customer base of the following customers. So we've got customers and we've got their references. In May X1, so 5 months in, they made a sale to a new customer, Pet Parade Co. The sales invoice is shown below. Right, we can also click on this references and have that information there if you find it easier to work like that. Identify in which daybook this transaction would be recorded. We were selling stuff to a new customer on credit, so it would be the sales daybook. Identify the customer reference for Pet Parade. So we've got to have a look at what we've got so far and like work out what the pattern is. So it would appear to be that it's the first letter of each sort of thing in capitals. So if it's Pet Parade, it's going to be PP, and then the number just goes up numerically. So we've already got PP001, PP002. So this is going to be PP003. This invoice was manually recorded as 63 6,330 net. Should have been 6,300. It's gone in as 6,330 net in the daybook. The VAT has been manually recorded as 1,266. The totals from the daybook for May have been posted into the general ledger. So the net figure and the VAT figure are incorrect. Identify whether each of the following accounts in the general ledger will be debited or credited to correct the error. Right, so the net figure, we've got 6,330 instead of 6,300. So we know that the net sales is a credit in the sales account. And at the moment, we've put in this number, 6,330, which is £30 too big. Should have been 6,300. So we've put 6,330 in on the credit side. So to fix it, we would have to debit the sales account with the 30. It hasn't asked for the amount. The VAT has been manually recorded in the daybook as 1,266. So VAT would have also gone in as a credit, too big. So the VAT will also have to be debited to fix it. So by default, the RLCA, so basically what would have happened there is those two numbers would have been added together, come up with an altogether too big figure, which would have been debited to the RLCA. So too much has been debited. So to fix it, we would need to credit. Okay, so let me get rid of that reference material. So now we come to our first written question. You have been told about a cloud accounting system which automatically posts the invoice to the daybook, ensuring the error above could not occur. You would like your manager to consider using a cloud accounting system. State 4 benefits of using an online accounting system for 4 marks. Right, now exam technique, it's state. Someone's at my door. Hold on. Good old Amazon. Right, I'm back. So state 4 benefits. So it says state, which literally means state. So you can do this sort of in a bullet point fashion. So an online accounting system. So the main benefit of using an online accounting system is going to be surely that it automatically transfers data from books of prime entry into the ledgers. It kind of told us that here. That's going to be the main advantage. But we've got a state 4. So thinking about it from your own point of view, why would you want to use a computerized system rather than doing it all on a piece of paper? The obvious one is there's less chance of human error. It's going to save you time. Cheaper. Might say there saves time. I might just add frees up staff for other purposes. Could say saves money as lower staff processing costs. There are other things you could say. Could say it processes recurring entries automatically. Could say that it does reconciliations automatically. But you're just stating, just like I've done there, 4 marks. But make sure you state 4. Even if they're a little bit repetitive, try and definitely get your 4 in there. When Pet Parade Co. paid invoice 0013, I need to get it back up again. So let's get the reference here. So here's the invoice. So when they paid this invoice, they only paid 5670 plus VAT, as their other suppliers offer them a prompt payment discount. They assumed this was industry practice. You had not agreed to a prompt payment discount, but Vanda has decided, remember Vanda's your manager, has decided to honour it on this occasion and allow them the 10% discount. Identify the adjustment to each of the following general ledger accounts as a result of this prompt payment discount being given. Right, so we're giving discount to a customer. So first job for me really was to decide, is it discounts allowed or is it discounts received? So allowing discount to a customer is going to be discounts allowed as an expense. So debit discounts allowed. That would be the net amount of the discount. Debit the VAT, because we would be charging less VAT, so we would owe less VAT to HMRC. Those two always go together, the net and the VAT. And then credit the RLCA, because you've allowed a discount, so your customer owes you less. No impact on discounts received, because that would be to do with getting a discount from a supplier. Identify which one of the following documents will need to be issued as a result of giving the discount. Well, that one's easy. We give a credit note. And then some more writing. So Vanda has asked you, so Vanda, your manager, to write to the client to advise them that the discount will be honoured on this occasion and to ensure that they understand that prompt payment discounts are not available on future orders. Write a letter and it must be clear and structured appropriately. Right, so looking at the AAT mark scheme, you get 3 marks, it's out of 8 altogether. 3 marks are for the quality of your communication. So do you structure your letter properly? They've mentioned the client address, name, date, appropriate greeting, appropriate sign-off, and an appropriate introductory sentence. And then you have 5 marks for the actual substance of the letter, right? Which is obviously going to be more than just sort of copying this out. We want to be a bit more specific, maybe refer back to the particular invoice as we write this. Right, so client name. So who are we writing to? Bill to, so it's Pet Parade. Right, so we're not going to worry too much about, we're not going to be able to tab over to the right or anything like that. So I would do this, Pet Parade Company, 123 Sheeps Hill, Coventry, CV 127YH. So that's their name and their address. Then we would have the date. So what date are we writing this? Does it tell us? Doesn't tell us when they paid it, does it? Just seeing if I'm missing something. When they paid it. So to sort of make a bit of an assumption. So the invoice was due on the 31st of May. They didn't pay within, oh, they thought that they were going to get, hang on, we can for them prompt payment discount. So we assume it's somewhere around about the 20th of May. I mean, that's a bit poor they haven't given us a date to play with, but never mind. So 20th of May 20x1. And who are we writing to? We don't know a name. So we have to say dear sir or dear madam. Dear sir or madam. And then we want some sort of heading. So prompt payment discount invoice 0013. And then we would start. So something like, thank you for sending payment of, so how much did they send? Um, 5670 plus VAT. In relation to invoice 013 dated 1st of May 20. We note that you have taken a prompt payment discount. Unfortunately, but unfortunately, this is not something that we offer, and as such, it was not stated on our invoice. As a gesture of goodwill, so that's from what you've been asked here. There's and so the discount will be honoured on this occasion. So as a gesture of goodwill, we will honour the discount that you have taken on this occasion only. So no further payment will be required in regards to this invoice. Please note, however, that this is a one-off discount allowance, and that future invoices must be paid in full regardless of the date of the payment. We will now issue a credit note for the, we could work out the amount of the discount. So they've paid 5670 plus VAT. So let me just get my calculator. So 5670 plus VAT. So they've paid 6804 and they should have paid 7560. So £756. That was generous. Okay, something like that. And then not forgetting the close. So remember, it's yours sincerely if we knew their name, but if we don't know the name, then it's yours faithfully with a small f. And then who are we writing this from? I think we've been asked, Vanda's asked you to write to the client. So it's a little bit unclear whether we're writing on Vanda's behalf or not, but I would probably go with that in the exam. So what was her surname? Vanda told us, didn't it, near the beginning? Here we are, Vanda Boyinski. And she is the finance manager. Okay, so that's the sort of thing that I would be looking to write in the exam. So structuring the letter important, using lots of paragraphs, and making sure that you have answered fully what they asked for. So write to the client to advise them that the discount will be honoured on this occasion to ensure they understand that prompt payment discounts are not available on future orders. So I think I've done that. If I look at the AAT mark scheme, it says, so I get 1 mark for the client address, name, date, and appropriate greeting. I get 1 mark for an appropriate sign off. I get 1 mark for the opening sentence. And then for up to 5 marks, 1 for saying we do not offer discounts for prompt payment. Yeah. A gesture of goodwill, we will honour it on this occasion. 1 mark. We will accept your payment as full payment for this particular invoice. 1 mark. Ensure all future invoices will be paid in full. 1 mark. And we will issue a credit note, they've just said, for the outstanding balance. Okay, it's possible that it will be write an email, which will follow very similar structure. Instead of having a heading in the letter, you would have that as the subject on the email. And it might be slightly more informal, so like hi and the person's name, and then maybe closing with kind regards as a sort of standard. Both of the AAT sample assessments have included a letter, so take from that what you will.